All right, I'm going to run through this presentation real quick and kind of touch on some of the real basics of this chapter uh, to understand, I feel like, just some basic things and that we need to know as we then move on into some different parts of this course. So satisfying needs and wants, we did an assignment on this. Basically, needs, you need to live, all right? Everybody has the needs: food, water, clothing, clean air, shelter. Other needs are going to be education, employment, safety, transportation. So those are all needs, things that we need to live. Wants then they add comfort and pleasure, right? So just an example, you may be able to get by with a small apartment, but wouldn't everybody love a large house? Okay, again, public transportation versus a luxury car, and you guys can go on and on comparing needs and wants. But needs are things you need, wants just add comfort and pleasure. The biggest thing to take from this is that needs and wants are unlimited. Our needs are only limited by our imagination and what businesses make available. Okay? So needs and wants are unlimited, and this is something important, and we'll talk a little bit more about this. All right, goods and services, basically, that's what we buy to satisfy our needs and wants. Goods are physical things that we can touch. Services then are activities that are consumed at the same time that they're produced. So that means when you go get a haircut, so like a barber, he provides a service. You go in, you get your hair cut, you come out, you have less hair, but you really don't have anything. You paid for that service. Massage therapists, doctors, lawn services, those are all example of service businesses. They come and they do something for you, and then you pay for it, and you have that. So we have ways to satisfy our needs and wants will be through goods and services. All right, U.S. economy, largest producer in the world. Economic resources, these are how those goods and services that we need or that we want get produced. And this was also in one of your questions. There's three kinds of resources. There's natural resources, which again you can look at this. They're raw materials, river, air, land, trees. They're limited. Natural resources are limited due to the increased consumption and also damaging in the environment. So natural resources are limited. Human resources, people producing goods and services, farmers, entrepreneurs. I'm not going to read all of that. And then the capital resources are the products and the money that are used in the production. So buildings, equipment, supplies, that kind of stuff are going to be our capital resources. Our resources are limited. All right, so limited natural resources is limited to the amounts of goods and services that can be produced. All right, so this is our basic economic problem, is that we have unlimited wants and needs, but we have a limited amount of resources. So there's scarcity, and that's why you hear of recycling, conservation efforts, things like that, to try to continue to have those resources. Okay, I'm not going to really spend any time with this. I'm going to skip that. Countries have to go through what they produce based on what their resources are, and I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this one. They have to figure out how to produce it. Some countries have the same resources, but they don't have, maybe they produce corn, but the way they produce things is different based on the equipment and tools that they have available. Again, what needs and wants do you want to satisfy? Well, some countries, depending on what their economies are, will do different things, but I'm not going to really go into any more detail on that one. All right, this is the one that I do want to talk about, the economic systems. Okay, this was in your assignments, and you guys should have come up with this. We have the command economy. Basically, this is somewhat like a communist. Resources are owned or controlled by the government, and basically the government decides what and how goods are going to be produced and how they're going to be shared. Obviously, if you have wealth, you're probably going to be better off than if you're poor in these countries. So a command economy, owned and controlled by the government. All right, so this is just some more information that goes with the command economy. You have limited economic freedom in a command economy, and that can also go with, you may not, if you have a business, you may actually be producing stuff for the government, and then the government decides who gets your products and services, and so it's not a true where you would be earning money. You'd almost be like working for the government, but personal economic freedom is limited in a command economy. Market economy, resources are owned and controlled by the people of the country. This is more what would be like the United States. We decide what we want to produce. No one tells consumers or businesses what to buy or produce. There's limited government involvement. That's to say that there is some, but it's limited. And then the traditional economy, this is where goods and services have been produced the way that they were all generation after generation after generation. So like traditional. So they planted corn and they harvest their corn crop the way they did 100 years ago. These economies you see in less developed countries that really don't have any economic resources, and they're very poor countries. Again, goods produced same as always, generation after generation. They might still be using hose and stuff. They don't have the modern tools just because of they lack those funds. Basically, what they produce, they consume themselves, or they, and basically it's meeting their wants. They do food, clothing, and shelter. All right, they just don't have the money to go buy things. They can't travel a lot of times, so a lot of times they trade for stuff. And so traditional economy, it's for poor. You'll see this in poorer countries. Obviously, mixed economies is just as what it said. It's a combination and of the command and the market economies mostly. The traditional one is, again, just for the poorer countries, but a lot of economies are these a mixture of the command and market. Okay, just real quick on the United States economic system. We're capitalism. We have private ownership by individuals rather than the government. You're free to decide what you want to produce, how you want to do it. Obviously, there are rules and regulations. And there's 4 principles that the U.S. economic system kind of goes on. We have the right to own private property. We have freedom of choice. You have the right for a profit, and then there's competition. If I want to have a sports store and somebody else wants to have a sports store, we can both have it, and we're going to be competing. Again, I'm not going to go through all this, but I will just say private property. Again, you can do with what you want with your property. Obviously, you can't violate. There are laws that we have to follow. You have the right to earn a profit, and again, competition. And competition is actually good for the consumers. We're all consumers. We all buy stuff. And competition is good because if there are 2 sports stores or 2 grocery stores or 2 gas stations, that means that those 2 have to compete against each other, and they're going to try to get us to come to their stores. So they're going to have probably good quality products, competitive prices, things like that. New ideas will continue on, versus if there's no competition, then you don't get good quality and it's expensive. All right, so that was really fast going through this chapter 1 slideshow. And you guys can look back through this video if there's anything that you need to look up. If you need to finish any of your assignments, I will be getting those corrected and put into the grade book.